Maddox here. Today we're going to be talking about how to be affirmative. The first thing we're going to get into is what does it mean to be affirmative? The affirmative side in a policy debate is the one that proposes a plan and has advantages to doing that plan. The advantages of being affirmative are you get to give the first and the last speech. So today we're going to unpack what it means to be good or to do the fundamentals of each. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the very first speech in the debate and the first affirmative speech, which is called the 1AC, which is short for First Affirmative Constructive. The role of the 1AC is to introduce the plan. The plan is basically the affirmative side's proposal for what the United States federal government should do. If you look to your risk index affirmative packet, the risk index affirmative is going to say, plan, the United States federal government should reduce all arms sales to countries on high-risk countries on the Thermometer Mini Index. So what that means is they're saying that the United States should decrease arms sales. The second part to being an affirmative is supporting your plan with benefits or advantages, as we like to call them, to doing your plan. What might an advantage be? An advantage is any tangible benefit to doing your policy plan. So in the case of this, an advantage could be that arms sales are used to commit human rights abuses across the world, and that if we were to do the plan and stop selling arms, then there would be less human rights abuses. So the advantage would be called human rights and basically the thesis or crux of that advantage is that there are less human rights abuses because we do the plan, so the judge should vote to decrease human rights abuses. That is the 1AC. It is entirely reading cards and it should be rewritten. The entire 1AC should be read using cards. And those are the things in their evidence packet that have a claim, an author, and then a bunch of sentences and stuff backing up the claim. So the 1AC, depending on your speech time for your division, is just going to be the entire time reading your plan and reading the advantages to doing your plan. It's the first speech in the debate, but it's really important because it sets up the entire rest of the debate. The next speech that the affirmative gives is the 2AC, which, similar to the 1AC, stands for Second Affirmative Constructive. And essentially, what the 2AC wants to do is defend the 1AC. The bread and butter and the main points you want to make in this debate are already made in the 1AC. You have your plan or the option that the judge should consider doing, and your advantages already in the 1AC. You don't need to make new advantages or benefits to doing that in the 2AC. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you are extending the AF. What does extending the AF look like? Essentially, extending the AF means that you are basically bringing your partner's speech from the very first speech over into yours and explaining it so that the judge can have a better understanding. So, if the 1AC were to say that human rights abuses are going on globally, then the 2AC would say, like my partner said, there are human rights abuses going on all over the world, and the United States applies weapons to 73% of the world's dictatorships. What you're doing by that is bringing your point over from the first speech to the second, and also defending it and making it stronger. The key to a good 2AC is to make sure that you are pre-prepared and you're on the same page as your partner. You guys should have a strategy for what you want to say in the 2AR before even the 1AC starts. So make sure you're working with your partner to make sure the arguments that you want to be making at the end of the debate are being defended and introduced very early on in the beginning. The 2AC, however, is different from the 1AC in the aspect that it has to answer arguments that the negative team made, and they're constructive. So, what you want to make, and the key to the 2AC, as I said earlier, is defending the 1AC. And what that looks like is that you have your advantages in your plan already set up in the 1AC. The 1NC, however, will make arguments against you. The 2AC must answer the 1NC. And what that means is that, like you already have your plan and advantages in the 1AC and you're not responding to anything, the 1AC, however, will introduce new things that they're going to say are like effects of your plan. So that could be a disadvantage or something bad that happens as a result of the plan, or a host of other different off-case arguments that they can make as you go up in the divisions. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about if the 1NC reads a disadvantage. So the 1AC doesn't have to mention the disadvantage because it speaks first and there's nothing against it. However, if the 1NC is read and reads a disadvantage, the 2AC has to answer the 1NC's disadvantage just as well as they extend their partner's arguments. So what that means is you're going to read blocks. And what a block isn't like a Lego or anything like that, but rather a device that you can use to answer the arguments that your opponent are going to make. It can be a combination of evidence in your research packet or analytics that you prepared before the tournament. And so, a block is going to be responsive to something that a negative team might say against you. Because in the AUDL we have a resource packet here, and you generally know the arguments that the negative are going to make against you, you and your team can reasonably pre-prepare for those arguments so that you can be ready to go in the 2AC. What that looks like is saying, if the negative says, human rights abuses would be worse because of Russian arms, you, in the 2AC, could read a block that say, no, the affirmative wouldn't increase human rights abuses because of insert reason here, essentially. But blocks are the key to the 2AC, and basically a large portion of prep for the affirmative debate should be made using blocks and timing them so you can make sure you can answer everything that's going on in the 2AC and the 1NC. The speech after that is the 1AR, which stands for the first affirmative rebuttal. And basically, this is where debates are like won and lost. What you need to do in the 1AR, because it's answering the 2NC and the 1NR, which is considered the neg block, is A, you need to defend the AF, which essentially is very similar to the 2AC, how you were defending the 1AC. You've given multiple speeches now, and a lot of arguments have been proliferated in the debate thus far. So what you want to make sure you're doing is expanding on the arguments you think are your best chance for winning the debate, and making sure that you're mitigating any risk of the negative team's arguments. So the 1AR needs to make sure it's doing a very efficient and concise job of defending and extending the AF similar to the 2AC, because it also needs to be able to focus and answer on the arguments that your opponents just made in the two speeches previous. So, in summary, the 1AR needs to be efficient on the case debate. And case is essentially just whatever was introduced in the 1AC. The next job of the 1AR is to answer the neg block. And what that means is the two speeches that were given previously, they're going to have a lot more time compared to you to make these arguments. For example, in high school open divisions, there are 6-minute constructives and 4-minute rebuttals. They have the 2NC and the 1NR. However, the 1AR, which is only 4 minutes, has to answer all 10 minutes of the neg block. So there's a massive time disadvantage for the affirmative. So the key to doing that is making sure you're A, efficient and saying only what needs to be said and moving on, and B, making sure that you're taking a good flow of the debate so you can make sure you know what arguments were present and what needs to be answered. So flowing is key. The 1AR also should have blocks written for it, and that should be handled by the 2A. Because the 2A is giving the last speech in the debate of the 2AR, they should make sure that their partner is, they have everything they need to extend the arguments that they want. So the 1AR should also have blocks. Let's say that the negative reads the disadvantage in the 1NC, the 2AC answered it. The 1AR also needs to answer it if the block reads it as well. So the 2A and the 1A should work together to come up with a pre-written answer or block to defend the 1AC or the affirmative writ large against the disadvantage. So making sure that the 1AR can set up the 2AR is key. At the beginning of this lecture on this speech, I said it's where debates are won and lost. And that is because the 1AR needs to set up the 2AR. The 2NR, which is the very last negative speech, comes after this. And they don't have a 3NR, right? That's the last speech in the debate, the 2AR. So no new arguments can be made in the 2AR. So everything that was in this speech needs to be in this speech. Essentially what it means is you don't get to make new arguments. So the 1AR is the last chance for the affirmative to make arguments against the negative's case. So make sure you set up the 2AR. Alright, so basically we're going to go into the 2AR, which is the last speech of the debate and of the affirmative. And the 2AR is where you're making your claim to the judge why you and your partner should win the debate. The way you do that is by, first, impact calc. And thankfully, it's not high-level calculus, because I would not be the person to teach you that. But what it is you framing your arguments to the judge, explaining why you should win. There are three essential parts of impact calc, which are magnitude, risk, and time frame. But for a deeper dive onto that, that'll be another video. But essentially, what you're going to be doing is saying, Judge, for example, human rights abuses are going on in the status quo, or the world we live in right now. So they 100% outweigh on probability, because we know they're happening right now. You should prefer that over the negative seems disadvantage, because probability should outweigh magnitude, because we should solve what we know is happening. And that's all you need to do really at the top. You give a brief explanation of what your affirmative does, and you do your impact calc, which is you explaining to the judge why your impact A is bigger, or in debate tech terms, outweighs, and B, why you should win the debate. The next thing you want to do, and something that a lot of really good debaters still sometimes struggle to do, is answer the 2 and R. There's not a 3 and R or any speeches after this, so the judge is going to be evaluating the debate in the context of the last 2 speeches. Sometimes people give very good speeches defending their own position or their advantages, but fail to answer the disadvantages or anything else that the negative might have extended through to the 2 and R. So the key to making sure you're giving a good 2AR is to make sure you're covering every flow. And remember, because there's no 3 and R or a chance for the negative to respond, you can't really read new arguments or answer things in a different way. So you need to be basing the arguments that you're using in the 2AR off of what your partner had said in the 1AR. So that way it can be fair for the negative. So remember, impact calculus and answering the 2 and R, and the last thing you're going to want to do is write the ballot. And what that means is the judge is going to eventually make a decision on your ballot that says, I vote AF, the case outweighs on probability, or on magnitude, or the DA outweighs on this. You want to use this exact same language that the judges are going to be deciding off of, so you can make the job as easy as possible. A key to the good 2AR is the resolution of your arguments. If you say, Judge, we solved this by decreasing arms sales to high-risk countries, that means human rights abuses are decreased, we outweigh on probability, so case outweighs on probability, we outweigh the disadvantage. That is one coherent thought that it tells the judge how they should evaluate the round via probability, how you solve for your problems by stopping arms sales, and why that should outweigh. That is one way to give a very good 2AR every single time. That's essentially the conclusion of the comments on the speech. I have a couple of insider tips on how to be efficient at being affirmative, including how to use prep time efficiently. So, when I was talking about the 2AC and 1AR, I mentioned things called blocks. And essentially, you should have stuff already pre-written before the debate tournament so that you can use your prep time just to make sure they're organized and you're answering what needs to be answered. If for the very first time at a debate tournament, you're hearing something or writing out an answer, then you need to make sure that for the next tournament you have that pre-prepared so you can make sure that your answers are as efficient and responsive as possible. So, for example, the 2AC should already have blocks for every argument that's reasonably going to be in the 1NC. So instead of coming up with new answers in prep time for the 2AC, what you can do is make sure you have your blocks in order and make sure that you look to your flow and you're answering every argument that the negative team made. So then, all you really need to be doing during prep time is making sure you're answering all of the arguments the negative made. That also goes for the 1AR. You shouldn't be coming up with new answers unless it's a new argument. So you should just look to your flow to see what arguments A, you need to answer, B, have been dropped by the other team, or C, you feel like you need to expand on a little bit. And finally, prep time should basically be allocated pretty evenly throughout the speech. So for the 1AC, you should not use any prep time. For the 2AC, you should try and use maybe 30 seconds to a minute of your 5 minutes total, just to make sure that you have everything answered. The 1AR should use about a minute to 2 minutes, to make sure that you're setting up the 2AR. And finally, if you didn't use too much prep time in the beginning of the debate, the 2AR, realistically should have from 1:30 to 2 minutes of time so they can make sure they're setting up the debate the best way possible. And that's essentially how to be affirmative.